What's up, everybody? This is Success Lecture, or whatever this is. Success. It's not a podcast, but whatever. I'm Yogi Chris, PhD, Pippin Yogi, Chris DeVilbiss. And, what I do with IMC in the business here, I see a lot into it. And I want to kind of give you my mind as I'm zoomed in on it, because I communicate with so many people in the tribe. People that are on the outskirts of the tribe, inner tribe, high investors in the tribe, people in foreign countries that would love to, give their life for it, but, can't get out of their country where there's vax, whatever requirements, whatever. And then there's a bunch of people that are looky-loos and trying to dupe you into thinking how committed they are, how loyal they are. And it doesn't mean that I'm always right. I'm wrong a lot. That's how I learn. But it is, you got to take the reins when it comes to looking at the communication with somebody and the authenticity or sincerity or the truthfulness, the forthcomingness, if that's a word, of the other person. Like, you need to judge and assess this. And this is going to take skills and awareness of communication. And what that is, well, if you were to take out a piece of paper and write all the things that, all the mechanics, all the specifics that you could think about, that you could, think up, of, if you were going to teach someone from scratch how to communicate, given that let's say they already know the language, you're not going to teach them like hooked on phonics, like start from being mute or something. But if you were going to take a regular Joe Schmo or Jane off the street and teach them communication, they were going to pay you to teach them communication. What would you teach them? What are those things that you would teach? And as you look at that, you would probably find that you don't know that much about communication, unless you're like me or you've been studying a long time on this subject. So there's what happens. One of the first things when you get good or better at communicating, or even, which really just happens, like let's say it starts with the willingness to communicate. You got to get out, either in person or on your communication lines with messages or phone calls or even social media, like that communication with your audience, start to see it all as communicating. And as you push energy into it, it's different than effort, but it takes some doingness to have communications with people. You can't just sit there and communication will just come to you. Even if you're a chick, let's say you're a chick on Instagram and you're very pretty, you still need a post to get attention to you. You would need to post a profile picture or something to bring attention to you. And the quality of your communication is going to bring a certain quality of audience or, other person that, it's communications to. So whoever the other end of that communication is, the quality of your communication that they latch onto, they see it. And, so to get in communication with your environment, even if it's your social media environment, requires energy. Life takes energy. Moments go by, hours go by, days go by. It took calories. It took energy. You had to fuel yourself. Your brain takes a lot of it, and your life functions, they take a lot. So anytime you're giving your time to something, you're giving your energy for sure. And then if we could have like not an infrared, but if you could imagine like an infrared, how it would measure your temperature. Well, what if you had like an emotional camera and you could see someone's like emotions and it was like a color or something? You could call it like an aura or whatever, but definitely people are walking around with some kind of emotional state, from 0 to infinitely good to infinitely bad. 0 is an emotional condition. It's a state of like apathy, or like, you could call it contentment, but contentment, I think, is a really high emotion, high vibe. So, that, there's the energy you push into a communication that it takes to do the communicating, but it's almost like if you had like one of those toys as a kid where you would push the Play-Doh through it and there were hole cutouts, and you push the Play-Doh through and then out comes the shape of whatever the holes are. Okay, when you have an emotion, the emotional state, your communication, you might be trying to express something, you're pushing forward this expression, but it gets filtered through the shape of your emotion. And so it comes out in certain words and certain gestures that maybe that's not is entirely what you were meaning. Probably not, probably never is. So we just try to get closer and closer and operate in the same space with people so that we have agreement. And this is what you need for your business, for your success, for the client, for your relationships, for understanding yourself and your own state management. That's what's so essential. Your life is in your state of mind in the present moment. You could be worried about something 10 years from now, but it's your present time that's worried about it. You could be joyful about something 10 years from now. Same way for the past, but it's your present state that would be enjoy about it. So it's not the future, it's not the past, it's presently what's your state while you're doing what you're doing. So if you're hustling, there's an expected or a reasonable and anticipated amount of energy that you got to put out if you're trying to be an entrepreneur. Like, you're going to be exhausted. There's going to be long hours. Your eyes might get tired. Your hands might get tight, like this and that. You got to manage all of those things physically. And really, none of those would be a problem if they weren't affecting your state of mind. So somehow there's this relationship, what you're doing with your body and what you're doing with your communication. If somebody replies to you in a way that like irks you or you don't like, it could drop your emotional state. If you accept it, if you don't know how to respond, a lot of time that drop in emotional state is just not knowing how to respond. If you knew how to respond to everything, nothing would get you down. 10 days later, 10 months later, 10 years later, you could look at that same communication and have such a clever comeback, have the exact right thing to say if you just look at it, because you'll be in a different emotional state. Maybe a little bit more intelligent, maybe a little bit more experienced, but probably not that much more intelligent. It's just a different emotional state, and you found different words to reply. And, what if we can bring that from the future? Or even if it's not the future, what if we could just bring that from that other state of mind? We could access the library of another state of mind. So state management becomes extremely important. It is the game. The game is state management and external technique. Because you can be in a great state, but you say the wrong things and you're met with non-success over and over. Enthusiasm will get you so far. Cockiness will get you so far. Confidence will get you so far. You get further than not being those things. But what you say has got to make sense. It's got to move the person towards what you're moving them towards. If you're moving them towards a meetup or a relationship of some sort, or taking the next step in your sales funnel. So I titled this episode or whatever, Weighing Your Options. And I haven't really talked anything about that. Whoops. Not yet. I need to cut off. I'm going to cut off Instagram and Facebook right now. So that's it. You guys need to be in my Telegram groups to keep getting this. You need some level of commitment. All right. So sayonara to freeloaders. Stop live stream. Ends the Instagram. Click the link in my bio. And the okay. Are there any questions or ideas from anything I've said? Okay. So much of your state, a certain portion of it, a substantial portion of it, a significant portion of your state of mind has to do with what you're doing with your body. What posture is your spine in right now? Where is your head in relation to your spine? Where are you breathing from? Are you holding tension in the side of your neck? Are you holding unnecessary tension in the center of your forearms? How much are you gripping with your jaw? Those things, as you release tension, state of mind changes. That doesn't mean all of your state of mind is that. But through yoga, I could probably make myself feel like a fucking god. outside of anything, my dad dies or something, I'm sure that would be very difficult to emotionally change my state. But even there, I could probably have glimpses of a super head rush or some super decompression of my spine, some blissful pop or something that for a moment I do forget that. And I am in a different state. Drugs could do that too, but there is something so much more gratifying about inducing it through movement and breathing, through stretching and deliberate kind of conscious, whatever this is, because the drugs will accumulate tension and you'll need more of that to keep overcoming the negative state of mind that tension creates. Coming up in January, I'm teaching Yoga for Sorcery. It's a 9-part series with Frank White, which is, his sorcery. I don't know much about sorcery, but I know it's going to be really based a lot on relaxation and meditation. Like those are the fundamentals. Like to be able to stay alert while you're relaxed is going to be the prerequisite to doing anything magical, manifesting, whatever. So, relaxation is the name of my game. That's like another name, ninth limb yoga, relaxation. Might as well just use a different word. And then, so that's very important, is somatics, what's going on with your body. What's going on with your breathing, being able to identify your state of mind. So I called this episode Weighing Alternative Options, Weighing Alternatives. I like to write it out. When I have alternative options of this way or that way to go, I want to look at some data. I want to make some numbers, make some symbols, represent this idea with some concrete symbols so I can do some mental math with it instead of it existing in cloud space and I'm trying to grip the cloud of my thought. I'm trying to hold on to the cloud of my thought. Write it out so that it's discrete. It's an exact thing, whatever you're writing. You can rewrite it, but whatever you write is an exact thing. So, and correlating that with numbers, with stats, like in my life, it would be new people, a number of people, revenue, total revenue, new people. Those are like the main stats. And then of course, kind of compared to last month, compared to 1 year ago, the same month, those are important stats. And, other smaller stats in it, like how many party attendees versus gathering attendees. Maybe it was the biggest party, but not a biggest gathering. So looking at those over time, we have the desire to have the billionaire's eagle eye and know exactly what we're looking at, know exactly what we're looking for, have ultimate foresight after we study everything on business so that we don't make a single mistake. But the thing is that you gotta do it. You gotta do it and stop preparing to do it. That's an old thing. I think Vince Kelvin said that once, or maybe it was Arash. I don't know, but there's always a preparation every day. That's the discipline we're in. This is the AZD process. And it's there's so many processes out there that have discipline, daily time schedule, and whatever. But that's going to be real important. It's been real stabilizing for my effort to have the same wake up time every day. And even though some nights I go to bed late, like on the nights we go to bed at 2:30 sometimes, my wake up time is still 5:30. And because it may feel good to wake up at 7:30, but then I'm way behind all day. Like I'm used to getting my routine in a certain time before a certain time. So these things that will give you a kind of a background to measure your state of mind on when you have discipline. And it's like grid paper. You have a discipline and you can see, you can just see where your mind and emotions are getting in the way of doing your discipline when you have things to do. So, but when you don't have the things that you need to do kind of discreetly understood, discrete, I could define that word for you really quick. It's a word that's used in mathematics a lot. I think it means like definite or finite in measure. Discrete definition. individually separate and distinct. More definitions. That's the only definition. Separate. Okay, discrete, and individually separate or distinct. So yeah, when you write things out, you have individual separate words, separate letters that are representing what you're thinking about. Instead of never writing it down, maybe you could be talking to yourself and then those are the symbols. But there's a lot of whispers and chatter in the head. And this journey, you know, with all the mind control that's done to everybody from, you know, age 0 to 20 or whatever, or even longer, like there's a lot in there that's not yours. And it's going to pull you off track if you're not aware. So you need awareness. How do you get that? I mean, this is what we're doing. This, I mean, you want to achieve excellence, you need awareness. Otherwise, to not have awareness, you won't understand the variables that have resulted in your success. And so you'll be destined to plummet or discover those things. Because if you don't have awareness of where you have control over the situation, then you'll always be scratching the itch in the wrong place. So, and in this method, because sometimes I may forget that there's like 1,000 methods out there for different coaches or whatever. I don't listen to them because this is world class and this is world class at what I want. This is number one in the world at what I want. So what this method is well, whatever I was saying right before that, this method is communicating. What was I saying right before that? Other methods, I don't listen to them. You know, seeing where your mind is getting in the way of, you know, that's what discipline does. And I forget what the point was. It kind of escaped me there, but so there it is. Okay. So I have 12 minutes. Are there any comments or questions? Rookie smoker over there, master myself, doesn't know how to handle his weed. Maybe it's just that good. All right. If there's nothing, I mean, I got a ton of messages to reply to. You know, so measuring and weighing options, like if you have 2 job options and you have the option to work both, what's the benefits of one? Pros and cons of one, pros and cons of the other, pros and cons of trying to do both. Measure it. What's the money? What's the time? What's the days? What are other priorities in life that I have priorities on, so that you have a separate list of that. And then now look at your 3 columns of job A, job B, job A and B, and how do your priorities in life fit in? So that you get a big picture view of all of what you're getting yourself into. It'll be very good for your state of mind. Measure twice, cut once, sharpen the axe 5 hours, then cut the tree. That's my method. I'm only one voice on this, which is, you know, whatever the voice of whatever I am, which if you don't know what I am, I mean, I don't know why you're here, but I guess Camilo, you're new. I mean, I work, Arash lives here, world-class guy. I'm the guy that does all his business. I bring in probably about, you know, 60 to 70% of his revenue for his camps. And, you know, I've done that over years of prospecting, whatever. I have the Pyramid of Success event where I spell it out real clearly. You're kind of new. I know you're friends with Fernando. Fernando lives right there. I can hear his music right now. And so there's that. Okay, guys, 10 minutes. If you got anything, you could unmute. Girls, you could type it out. Or we could just end it. Yoga for Sorcery starts in January. I don't know the date exactly. I think early January. And then we have the January gathering coming up. So that's $627 if you paid in full. So that's a month of advanced night lectures. You know, so the apprentices, if you were going to hit up, all 3 Black Panther salespeople are here. You know, if you were going to sell gathering, you got 4.5 weeks until January gathering. If you build up momentum in that conversation, you'll get a couple that will buy, and you'll get some that are just going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And as soon as the event happens, you get them right at the beginning of the next cycle for the next event. But you got to warm them up for a month. So you just message everybody on your social that's a guy and start talking to them about it. Hey, what do you know about this guy? This guy's got 9 girlfriends, 8 girlfriends. You know, what do you think about that? Where are you at? Where's your game at? Do you want to come to an event? No? Oh, what's an event about? Oh, well, I mean, you got a second to talk about it? Blah, blah, blah. All right, what's up?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, brother, what's the major difference between your success before AZD and your success now with AZD?
Well, there wasn't. Okay, so there's success before meeting AZD. There's success before doing business with AZD, but I'd already met him. And then there's layers of how involved I got in business with him and collaborations, which is not like a light switch. It's more like a gradient of like how much. And then when COVID happened, then my yoga touring stopped. And so my attention just went fully into the IMC Nation with a little side project of continuing the silent flute. The silent flute continues because that's like it's like my baby or something. I don't know. One day I'll probably abandon my baby, but right now I'm still doing it. So before meeting, do you have any clarification on the question before I go into it?
No, not really. The separation of, before doing business with AZD and whatnot, that made sense, as there would be different sections or what have you, or different layers to that. So that makes sense. But I guess since doing business with AZD.
The question is what exactly?
What is the difference between the success that you were having before doing business with AZD and the difference that you have now? Yeah.
Well, it's been years. So before I was ever doing business with AZD, I was an entrepreneur in that I was teaching yoga around Gainesville, and I maybe had started to do like a workshop or two out of city, not really out of state. And so obviously my skill in communication has grown tremendously. Prospecting at the time, I started the silent flute in June 2017 when I came back from India. And so that's a little bit working with Arash. I had done some podcasting with Arash. That's kind of working with Arash. I think that it was really more substantial, let's say, when I started coming to events and he was asking me to collect money for those after hours kind of talks down in the hotel lounges. So that was closer to me doing, that's like another step closer. And then the step of at the Tabiat event, when he asked me to sell for and take a 10% commission and get the guys for his events. That's when it got like substantial. So, the difference, it's more responsibility because someone else relies on my money, on the money flow, and I let someone else down, versus if I don't do my cold calling for booking yoga events, that's just me. And so yeah, I can get down on myself, but that, there's no one else to really answer to except myself. Versus the events, I mean, early on, you weren't around really seeing that the way I was prospecting for the first like 10 or 11 months before COVID hit, for $25,000 events. And in that process, when I started to sell the Tabiat events, which was around May or so of 2019, that's when the business changed because it was more substantial. It was about 33 to 50% of my revenue. And which at the time was probably about $3,000 a month. I thought I was doing really fucking good if I was at $3,000 a month. And my annual income those years were about $32,000. And a lot of expenses traveling the US too, but a lot of free hosting with my girlfriend and my dad and Brian Casella. And but also still training with Arash and paying. So when I took more responsibility because someone else was needing that money, then the business shifted because my sales was more about selling him instead of selling me. Although I need to sell myself as a good salesman, the leverage comes in. You're not going to get this anywhere else. So do you want this? I don't care if you like me, but do you want this? Because you can't get it anywhere else. So then that was not something I had done in yoga sales or in any kind of yoga entrepreneurship. I now, knowing the skills I have now, I could do it more. The community would be different. Yoga community would respond less favorably to a bunch of alpha guys respond to that. They like being put in a corner like that. A lot of guys don't even respond until you put it to them like that. And, it's amazing how many guys don't answer until I say, what the fuck? Why aren't you answering? And then they start answering. And I'm like, dude, you left me on red like 6 times, like dumbass. And I'm just seeing if they accept that, because I'll say that to the guy. And if they don't accept it, then you were being rude and you knew you were being rude. Now you don't get to get this stuff if you don't wise up, because your way of communicating is not going to succeed on this path. You got to take, and so I just start educating them on this or that, and they need to submit. They need to be like, you're right. And it's easy for me to become egotistical and whatever. It's the same trap that Arash would fall in. Being a teacher and leading like that, it's easy to like be infallible, even if you are false. And so let that be the worry of the leader. You have that worry too with whoever is following you. When people start following you, you see your own corruption expressed through their behavior. And so as you take more responsibility, you got to face that, or not, or you give up or whatever, or collapses somehow. You do something really wrong and then you can't overcome it or whatever, which is kind of collapsing. So that's the big difference, is the leverage of I'm selling this precious kind of gemstone that's not available anywhere else. Maybe you don't want it, but if you do, you got to go through me. Now lately it's been, you could go through the Guardians, you could go through the Black Panther apprentices, and people will see that you guys don't really have the answers. You're going to have to check in with Arash a lot for a lot of those answers, or check in with me, which I don't have a problem. That's what Sultan did, and he got a half commission on that sale. And but that's how you also learn. That's how you, in the beginning, I was asking a lot of questions to Arash, like, how do you respond to this? I don't know what to say. All right. Anything else before I go? Okay, I highly recommend sign up for the January gathering. It's $627 if paid in full, and $697 if you got to do payments. And that's January 21st, 22nd, 23rd here in San Jose. It's the same price online. So if you don't want to travel here, it's the same price online. All month long in the evening, advanced lectures. There's some behind the scenes audio recordings. I would take out my phone and I record voice memos when we're having in-depth conversations in the car, or when he's calling a girl or something. You get some infield stuff like that. And then there's the main event, which is 21st, 22nd, 23rd, which is like eight or so hours of advanced lecture when all the guys are here. It's a really powerful program, imcbase1.com. And that's where you go for that. All right. If this was good, then, tell people about it. Be like, hey, you need to join this guy's yoga Telegram group. I'll leave the link up for a little bit. I got to go to the next event, which is at 5, which is the gathering for January gathering. So thank you, Os.